Welcome to the Geek and I podcast. We are part of the Geek News Now podcast network. Visit geeknewsnow.com for all the news and information you need for geeks. Here's my special guest, my co-host this week, Jeff Dickinson of the Collector Zone. How are you doing this week, Jeff?
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me again on the show. Will I be back next week, though?
I don't. Well, we'll see. We'll see what the reviews say. I might not even be back next week. So today we have a couple of laughs in store for our audience. Do we not?
Yes, sir. We do. I would like to present our special guest.
Who is it, Jeff? Tell me.
Oh, you've seen him across the comedy stages of America. The crowd went wild. Here's a man that's a legend in his own mind, Danny McDermott.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing quite well. I'm thinking about talking in the Irish accent for the whole segment. What do you think? Danny McDermott, Daniel Patrick McDermott. That's my name.
That works for me.
There you go. All right,
so I'll stop talking like this. We all have accents, okay?
Yeah, I could do the Brooklyn accent if you want, not for nothing there.
Yeah, I hear.
Yeah, well, I'm originally from New York, so you get a couple of beers in me, and all of a sudden, my y'alls become yo's. And, it's just like, what you doing?
Yo, what's up, yo?
Hey,
yo.
Nice to talk to you.
You friggin' yo-yo.
Yeah, when I first moved to Texas, I needed a dog sitter, and
I hope you had a dog.
I actually did. That was one of the plus.
That would be weird if you just hired a dog sitter with no dog.
Yeah, well, the first company I asked, they were like, "No, we don't do that." But,
so you got to sit me. I know you usually sit dogs, but you got to sit me today.
Right. Yeah. So I said, I need someone to watch my dog for me. And she's like, you need somebody to watch your DAWG?
Seriously?
Yeah. And it was down here in Texas. And I said, well, I can tell you this. It won't be yous guys because you can go F yourself. YERSELF.
I never like conversations where I have to spell everything.
Yeah. Well, that's, you have to kind of do that.
So how's it going?
Good. Let's hear about you. What is your history with comedy? Your growing up, your inspirations. What made you jump on to get on the stage?
Well, I was always a big fan of Looney Tunes when I was a kid. I was a huge fan of Looney Tunes. The voices, the characters. I would get up. You know how kids don't like to get up early. I got up at like 5 a.m. to watch Looney Tunes every morning because it was the only time it was on and I just had to see it. And so that was one of my big early influences. I did when I was young, like Laurel and Hardy and Abbott and Costello, all those guys. Obviously it was before my time, but they were playing it on TV at the time. This was before cable. I'm dating myself now and I'm really getting along. I might marry myself. I'm sorry, that was bad. But Steve Martin, if you want to talk comedians, I would say Steve Martin, George Carlin, Bill Cosby. I know that's a bad name now, but he was one of the greatest comedians of all time, no matter what you think of him personally. Richard Pryor.
Point in time, where he was acceptable. And not just like you, Carlin, Cosby, and, Abbott Costello, those were our foundations. And of course, what happens in their life later on is their business. But we have our passions that we grew up with. So yeah, man, I totally dig it. Yeah.
And there's very few comedians breaking new ground since Carlin, I think. Bill Burr, I think, is breaking new ground now. And Chappelle. Those are the two that are really breaking new ground. In my opinion, those are two of the greats, the new greats.
I think it could be also because those two guys seem like they do not care what anybody says about them.
That's exactly, that's exactly correct. Yeah.
You know, they're
Just
not
like Carlin
they're
was.
not afraid to come out and say something that, you know what, somebody might find offensive, but it's a joke.
You know, it's Bill Burr is great, and I love it. And he did some jokes on SNL, and he got a lot of flack for it. But he is so truthful in his comedy, and some people don't like it. But they started calling him racist, and I'm like, he's got a black wife. What are you talking about? He was defending. He was defending the black community more, in my opinion, and bashing the Karens of the world, which, you know what I mean?
Well, same with Chappelle, isn't he's married to an Asian, isn't he?
Yeah. Yep.
So it's like I just don't understand what anybody, we're just supposed to stay, sit on our hands and keep our mouths quiet. I mean, is that?
I don't know. People are so quick to scream racism if you talk about race, you know what I mean? But we're all different. We should celebrate our differences. We used to make fun of each other for fun, and it was okay. And now suddenly, you can't say one bad thing about anybody. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. I mean, I personally don't do racial stuff, but maybe I should talk more about. I try to give people an escape from it all. So my humor is more, just things that have happened to me, like, when I was raised Catholic, and I talk about the Catholicism and stuff like that. And, the blood of Christ is wine. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's wine. How drunk was Jesus? That's what I want to know. You know what I mean? If his blood is wine. What's the alcohol content? That must be, your blood alcohol level is wine. You should not be riding this donkey. I just picture.
That's what I love about the comedy stage, man. It's because you could go out there and be yourself. And that's one thing that, like I was telling you, Danny, we're talking about being on stage and, either the audience is going to love you or they're going to hate you. And I was fortunate enough, like I mentioned to you before, that I was playing this little club in Austin and, trying out my material on open mic night. And just so happened, there was this beautiful soul out there. And I was like, well, he kicked a chair my way. And
I love this story. I love this story.
The thing is that Bill Hicks was in the audience, just to let you guys know, building up to that. But I bombed that night. I was trying to get a gig there, and of course that's where back in the days, it's what happened in the 90s. And Bill kicked the chair my way, told me, he goes, "Have a seat. You're funny as hell. I want to talk to you." And he had a shot ordered and a beer ordered, and it was just sitting there. And I was drinking wherever he had anyway. And he just told me, he goes, "You're making up stuff on stage. I could tell that's not your life." I'm like, "Well, yeah." He goes, "Tell me about yourself." And as soon as I did, he's like, "That's what you got to do." And that point on, that's what I did. I followed his career all the way through. The end of his unfortunate life was cut short. But he, to me, was one of those greats coming up that could have been phenomenal in this day and age.
He was. He was one of the ones that was breaking ground. And that's what everybody should strive for as a comic. Not just getting a laugh. Break some ground. Break some new ground. Do some stuff. About some stuff that's edgy. It's fine. Just don't, be truthful and don't be, you can do stuff about controversial stuff without being controversial, and
or crude.
Yeah. And it's okay if you're controversial, as long as you respect everybody. If someone's a dick, you can make fun of them being a dick, you know what I mean? But I don't know. It's like Bill Burr made fun of Oprah. Nobody ever made fun of Oprah before. You know what I mean? Not really. Not like Bill Burr did. Bill Burr was like, she stood on the heads of little people. She did shows about little people, and she just took advantage of them until she could get to a point where she could make her own decisions. And she's looking at Lance Armstrong like, how could you? You stood on little people. I loved it. I'm not doing it justice, but it's Bill Burr is,
who I also another one in the league of Bill Burr who we lost too early was Patrice O'Neill. I loved Patrice O'Neill. I thought he was, I mean, a little bit risque. You know, I have to make sure the volume was down so the kids wouldn't hear it. But nobody made me laugh like Patrice made me laugh.
Patrice was a great guy too. Both I know Bill, and I knew Patrice. Patrice, when I went out to LA the first time, I called him up, and he suggested some comedy clubs for me to go to. He even recommended me. He told me who the bookers were. He was just a genuine dude. I used to book him in my room on the Upper West Side in New York City, and I used to book everybody. I used to before they were famous. Jim Gaffigan, Mark Maron, Patrice O'Neill, Todd Barry, Greg Giraldo, another one we lost. I used to book all these guys, and Sarah Silverman. I mean, she was kind of famous at the time, I think. I'm trying to remember how far back that was. Long time ago. I think late 90s, early 2000s. And yeah, Patrice was one of the ones who would get on that stage, crush it, and hang out afterwards a little bit. He was just a good guy. Good guy.
And
yeah.
Phenomenal.
Speaking of getting up on stage, like Jeff had mentioned for the first time, do you remember your first time on stage?
Yes, I do. Okay, so I remember my first 2 times on stage, and they were drastically different. There was a talent contest in my college, and I don't want to tell you how long ago, but it was a long time ago. And
You're doing jokes about Noah's Ark. Let's just say.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Last time, yeah, exactly. I was stepping in dinosaur shit on the way to the show, but I wrote all these jokes, and I was an actor at the school. I was getting my engineering degree, but I started getting the leads in the plays. I was just a natural, but I loved it, and so I was like, I want to try doing stand up because I was a big fan of comedians, and so I wrote all this material, and I'm in my dorm room. I'm pacing back and forth. I'm trying to do the jokes. I'm trying to memorize them. And I didn't totally memorize them because I'm a slacker, which is good as a comic, though, because you don't want to have it word for word. That's the biggest mistake that actors make when they try to do stand-up, is they try to go in and do word for word jokes. And when you've never done it before, it's just the worst way to do it. The word for word stuff comes naturally the more you do it. So the natural word for word comes. You don't write it, memorize it, and do it. So anyway, I didn't quite memorize it. I get up, and it's packed. The place is packed. And shockingly, I got a lot of laughs. And it was great. I was like, oh my God, comedy is great. This is great. I can do this. There was a small show in front of like 15, 20 people in a black box theater at the I don't even remember how I got into that show. But anyway, I get up there, and I'm standing up there, and it's way different because now you just got a group of people in the dark, small group, and they're looking at you. And my joke bombed. My first joke bombed, and then I was like, I'm bombing, like that. And I actually said that out loud. And I'm like, help me. And I didn't even get a laugh with the help me. And it was just horrible. It was the worst. It was like, yeah, I'm just digging myself deeper. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to leave. And I walked off. I was like, it was awful. So in my first two times on the stage, I've got the best and the worst experience of my life. So, yeah.
How do you handle hecklers if you had hecklers, and how do you handle them?
I mean, I'm kind of an improvisational guy. I don't try to memorize. So there are some comics who memorize lines to rip on hecklers, and I understand some people do that. I just try to riff with whatever they're saying to me, and usually it works out pretty good. You know what I mean? It's just don't think and boom, blurt. That's the best way that I find to handle hecklers.
I know for me, when I was first in acting in high school and then doing improvisation, the acting was, you see those people who go like, give me a place and give me a, thing. And And that's what I started doing. And that's what got me thought about comedy, because people said, man, you're pretty funny. You should think about doing that. Which is why I went on stage doing the open mic night to a buddy of mine on a dare. Because we were both sitting, talking in his apartment. He's like, oh, dude, I dare you to do an open mic night. I got a place for you to go. And, it was in Austin. I'm like, okay. And that's, first night, it was terrible. Second, okay, he's like, try again. You're just a little nervous. Because I was sweating bullets.
But wasn't that the first night you got shot? No.
Emotionally, yes.
You're in Texas. Come on.
Well,
that joke.
And the second time was a little more comfortable. But the third time, when I went by myself, that's when I met, Bill. And so after that, my pathway took a different turn. Came here to Dallas. I did an open mic night in Addison, and the guy says I was funny, but the audience is not digging me. He said, you might want to rethink your career. And I didn't really have a comedy career. I was just doing it for fun, just because I want to see if I could do it. And that's the big thing. Most people are scared and they don't want to try. And I started on a dare, and I just kept on going because, you know what? I thought maybe I could do it, even though it wasn't in the cards for me. But hey, it all worked out in my mind because I enjoyed it.
Right. When you mentioned that you're an improv with the hecklers, have you done stage improv?
Yeah,
stuff or.
Yeah, I've done stage improv, and it's fun. It's very cliquey. I find, and you know what I mean. There's a lot of jealousy and weird stuff with some of the until you get in with them. So it's not my favorite thing. I'd rather do sketch comedy and be able to improvise. You know what I mean? Because I think that you got the framework of an actual story, and the other improv's okay. I don't enjoy it as much. I really enjoy, like I did a sketch once, and I'll just give you an example. I did a sketch once. I wrote it, and it was a theater piece, and it was about these women sexually abusing a waiter, because everybody was always talking about, women being sexually exploited. So I wrote a group of women who were strong women who were exploiting the waiter. And so they were distracting him. I was like, there was another customer, and I was pouring water on his pants. And, because I was looking at the girls, and they kept trying to sexually arouse me and stuff. And at one point, I ran around the back, and there's this giant curtain, and behind it is all these props and shit. And I accidentally caught the curtain, and the whole thing opened, and everybody's laughing their asses off, right? But I stayed in character as the waiter, and I went, oh geez, and I didn't say any words, but I went around and I grabbed the curtain and started running back. And as I'm coming back with the curtain, the other end's opening. So I didn't realize the other end was opening behind me, and the audience is dying. And then I run back and I bring it back, and I did that for for a couple minutes, just going back and forth trying to get the thing closed. It was hilarious. It was just it was amazing. Little things, and that's just physical improv. But I mean, I literally, as the character, if you stay in the character, it's hilarious, because it's some waiter. He's like, oh my God, I can't close the curtain. That's just a little example. There was another time when I was doing stand-up, and we had a potted plant on top of this curtain, and I had this bit at the time where I'd hide behind the curtain, and it was about stalker songs. So I'm like, every breath you take, and I'm looking behind the curtain, and I start doing this fake masturbation thing, and so you see the curtain go in and out, and people are laughing, but the potted plant falls, and I'm behind the curtain. It falls. It hits the top of my head, because I'm a bump behind the thing. Hits the top of my head and falls to the ground. And so I'm behind the curtain, and everybody's dying because the thing hit me in the head. And then I just start going like this behind the curtain. And I fall to the ground, but it was a slow fall. And because it was slow, the audience was holding their stomachs. And you see what I'm saying? So that's what I like to do. And I do it when I record my my shows. You know, I did Who Killed the Bible Salesman? The whole thing was improv. I set up the scenes. I made the actors improvise. If they didn't think of something, if they couldn't think of something funny to say, I'd throw them a line. And then I did the Living in Corona series where I had split personalities that are going out of their minds. And that was all improvised too. But yeah, I love improv. I don't prefer doing it on the stage. I may get into it again at some point, but I just prefer, natural improv. The games are kind of for me.
Like whose line? Whose line is
Yeah.
it?
Well, that's a little different because that's a little different. That's a little different because they give you one specific thing. But you got the games where you have to start here, go here, and then come back again. And it's okay. It's okay. It's just maybe I'll get back into it at some point. But I just prefer the natural improvisation while I'm doing it, in a script or a framework.
So when you started doing comedy, what was it that said, I want to get up there and do it? Because I've been, I've wanted to do it for a long time. I just don't have the guts to stand up on a stage in front of people and do it. And there's always that behind me that's like, damn, how does somebody like that have the guts to go up and stand in front of a couple of hundred people and attempt to make them laugh? Making somebody laugh is, I think, probably one of the hardest things to do because everybody's sense of humor is different. I can always make anybody cry. I just take a hammer and whack you on the knee. But, as far as making somebody laugh, it's tough. And do you go into that saying, okay, I know I might get laughed off the stage or whatever, but you know what? I'm going to step foot outside my comfort zone and go do that. What was your turning point that made you want to do that?
I think what for me, because you have to suck for a long time before you get funny at stand up. It's just you have to become you have to. And I honestly, I don't prefer open mics because it's all comedians just waiting to get up. So it's not a good assessment of your jokes. But I understand why people do it. Anyway, the reason I started doing it is because I had gotten, in college I tried it out. I came to New York City. I got the lead in a play right away, one of the two leads. And I got a great review in the newspaper, but there were no agents there. And I guess Rob Williams was probably one of my main reasons I got into comedy because he was able to move from comedy to drama. I already knew I could do drama, but he was able to make that move seamlessly because of Good Will Hunting. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And I wanted to be able to do both. And so I also, at the time, it was easier to get agents to come out and see you if you were doing comedy. So I started doing sketch comedy at first because I was doing stand up here and there, but I sketch was easy for me because, I got the lines and then I can just riff. If the audience starts laughing, I can blow them out of the water. You know what I mean? It's easy. It's safe. But when you get into stand-up, it's not safe because you don't have that. You have to, it's just you. It's just you. And so the only reason I really got full-time into stand-up was because I had been through some sketch groups and, it was great. I mean, I was killing it. But then there were egos and people were, the one woman was taking all the money for herself and lying to us. She wasn't paying us. And then I tried to start my own group and I had a group of 8 to 10 people and I should have known this one guy, one of the first, so we're writing these sketches and one of the first rehearsals or third rehearsal or something like that, I said something and the guy rolled his eyes. He goes, and I caught him rolling his eyes, but I didn't say anything. I should have kicked him out of the group right there. So A month before the show, I booked us at the comic strip where Eddie Murphy started, where Chris Rock started. It was an hour show. I booked it for us, right? And we had a month to rehearse. And in the meeting, he goes, you know what? I've been talking to some of the people here, and yeah, we don't feel like we're ready. We don't want to do it yet. We want to take another few months. And I was like, a few months like that. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Now, there was one other woman who I had worked with in the last sketch comedy group, and she was like genius. I mean, Claudine Cafaro is her name. I don't know where she is or what she's doing now, but she could look ugly. She could look pretty. She could be funny. She could be stupid. She could do it all. She was like Ruth Buzzy. She was, or what's her name from Saturday Night Live? Gilda Radner.
Gilda Radner?
Yeah, that's what she was like. And she gets up and can I swear? Can I swear on this show? Because this is what she did. She gets up as this guy's saying this shit, and she goes, you know what? Fuck you. She goes, I've been working with Danny. He is awesome. We are good. We will be ready. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, all of you. Danny, let's do the show together. And I said, okay. And two of us rewrote all the sketches and did an hour-long show, and we crushed it so bad that the booker there wanted us back. It was awesome.
Right on.
And yeah, it was a comedy duo. We were called. that was the name. That was
I was
it.
going to ask you, because Saturday Night Live also, they start out with a little comedy group called the Lemmies.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. And that's
Yeah.
how I believe Saturday Night Live started, because the core cast, Chevy Chase, I believe Dan Aykroyd was part of the team. I'm not 100% on that. But, and of course you had the great himself, John Belushi. So, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah.
Be on fly on that wall.
Yep. And so with her, we started doing really well. We did all the clubs. We did Caroline's Comedy Club with there were a few people on that particular show that are famous now. And after that show, Louis Ferranda, the celebrity booker at the time, came up to me and the next day, and he goes, listen, I've been told by the staff that you got a really good comedy duo. And I go, oh, thank you. He goes, think about doing more stuff for me like that. And I go, all right. I went back and I told her. Yeah, but I told her, and then all of a sudden she didn't want to do any of our top sketches. She wanted to rehearse it way out in Long Island where she was. I was trying to say, look, we got to move toward Manhattan. We got to be where it's at,
Right.
And it kind of fell apart, and that's where I got into stand-up. I just started doing stand-up after that. I was like, if stand-up, you don't have to count on other people.
Right. You write it for yourself, and you go out there on Friday and Saturday night and do it.
Yeah.
What is the best night of the week for somebody to go see a comedy show? And what is the best night of the week for a comedian to practice their?
Well, I would say the best nights of the week, usually for the audience, are the 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock shows on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, because that's when the clubs stack the comics with the best, most experienced comics. What people get confused who don't know comedy, what happens is they go to a show because their friend's on a show, because their friend needs to bring a certain number of people, which is called a bringer show. The problem is with that is if the producer doesn't know how to do a show like that, if they just put all bringers on the show, everybody sucks. And so they think, oh, stand-up comedy sucks. You know what I mean? You've got to have a big headliner. You got to have a couple people in the middle, and you got to have a good MC. You can't just stack it with new comics. And that's what they tend to do earlier in the week for a lot of the shows.
Right, because I would get emails from, I think when I was living in Austin, from the Austin Comedy Club, and it says, congratulations, you won tickets for you and 20 guests. I'm like, 20 guests? I don't even know 20 people.
Well, that's how because they make all their money on the liquor, food and liquor. They don't really make the money on the door, unless they've got like a big celebrity They announce it ahead of time. It's a 300-seat room. Then they make money on the door. But what they really care more about is the food and liquor. If to new comics starting out, I would recommend going to a bar that has a dead night and get some good comics. Because really good comics will do a room for free if it's a good room, but just make sure you pack the room, and then you'll get real stage time, because then you'll have a real audience with real comics on it. And that's how I did it. That's how I became a much better comic, because I was running my own rooms in New York City. I was running, at the height of my producing, I had 4 different comedy rooms running at once. I was doing 8 to 10 shows a week. I was headlining all of them that I could be at. Some of them, I had so many shows, I couldn't get downtown, uptown in time, because I was running the shows too. So I couldn't headline. So I just do a spot at one and then headline the other. And those were amazing times. Those are amazing times. I got so much stage time in front of real audiences.
Right.
And that's what I would recommend. Because you go to the comedy clubs, and especially when you're new, they'll give you 5 minutes if you're lucky. You know what I mean? And they make you bring 10 people. If you do your own room, you make the money. You got to charge a cover too. You got to charge a cover, or they won't respect the show. Charge a cover. But you do your own room, then you not only can you get a real audience, but you don't have to get off. If you're doing well, you can stay up there. You can hang out. God, there were times where I did an hour. After we had an hour of other comics, because the audience was so hot. To me, that's the best way to learn.
Do you like some of these places that where you're the headliner, they let you bring in merch? Do you recommend bringing merch to sell to the people, or if you have a CD, how do you?
Yeah. If you get to the point where you're good enough, you can do a good. I would say you'd have to be good enough to do at least a solid 20 minutes to a half hour. Sell your merch. I would recommend you got to figure out which merch is worth it. Because which merch is easy. T-shirts but they're expensive. T-shirts are a little expensive. There was one comic, he did guitar picks. You know what I mean? If you think of something really cool that other comics don't have, just things that nobody else has, and then put your logo or whatever you want on it. And if it pertains to a specific joke that everybody goes crazy for, that's a good thing too. So if you've got a bit, I have this bit about stalker songs, I'm like, every breath you take, every move, one way or another, I'm going to find you. I'm going to get you. I have all these songs, and you could have a concert T-shirt of all stalker songs. Call it the Stalker. I should do that, actually.
There you go. No, we won't charge you for that idea.
But yeah,
you heard it first.
That's true. That's one of my best, one of my favorite bits to do.
So but, you mentioned the good days. Back then. How are you dealing with your shows and getting your name out there? How are you dealing with that now in 2020, the insane year 2020? What are you doing to get by?
Well, okay, so I drove across the country to be near my family in March. It was like a stay-at-home order that was just about to come out, and my friend called me and goes, drive across the country, be near your son. And I was like, you're right. My job ended. I got laid off, and I was like, I'm going to drive across the country. And I drove across the country in a week. I found a buddy to stay with. That's where I'm at right now. I'm still here. But yeah, I was getting antsy. I can't not perform. I can't not do, people were asking me to get on their show. So I was doing Ventura Comedy Club, Ventura Harbor Comedy Club shows, where you just get on, you riff while you're being interviewed, stuff like that. I did that. I was like, that's good. It's fun, but it's not enough for me. So I started shooting these living in Corona videos where, the first one was just me saying, okay, I got all this time now. Now I'm going to get my masterpiece done. I'm going to get it. And the whole video is me just wasting time. Like I can't focus enough to get anything done, which is crazy. That happens. You have no time. But then I had the idea of developing split personalities. And so I started it out like a PSA. It's like, this man was abused by a pandemic. Have you been abused by a pandemic? And it's got the music and it's got the title boards. And I introduced each of the characters. They're like 5 characters plus me. And everybody loved it so much that I started doing more episodes. I'm up to 6 right now. But that got me my talk show, which is the Danny McDermott Show, which we're doing tonight. And it also got me a gig at a stand-up comedy gig at a theater in February, a big theater in New Jersey.
Very cool.
So yeah, I'm just creating. That's all you can do at a time like this,
Right. When you're home and you got a laptop and a camera, why can't you just?
Yeah.
Me, I'd like to sleep.
But I took chances too. I went out and I bought a GoPro. I'm laid off, but I bought a GoPro. I did a little research on Steve, the guy I'm staying with. He's amazing. He decides he wants to do something. He buys it. He goes on YouTube and he learns how to use it. And that's why that was one of the other things. The guy inspired me. Steve inspired me, and that's why I got this green screen now, and I got this camera here. I got this headset. All this professional. I got lighting here.
So that's not his backyard. You're not outside.
Yes,
you're on location.
Terrifying. I don't know how.
There was the illusion.
I'll do the Blair Witch. Help me.
Jeff, you need to go stand in the corner. So what do you have coming up? Is there anything that we can look for you in the future that's on the horizon?
Yeah. I've got the Danny McDermott Show, which you can look on YouTube. You can Google it, I think, and it'll come up.
Well, we'll put a link in the description. Jeff will put a link in the description. He's my tech guy.
Yeah, I'm really working hard on that. We're really trying to make it like a network show, but with my sensibility, my comic sensibility. Tonight we got 7 guests. Normally I'd only have 1 or 2, but it's Halloween, so we're going to do a big Halloween thing, which is why I got this background in back of me. The Living in Corona, there's 6 episodes. I got to do a 7th soon because I just introduced a new character, and I don't want to tell you who, but it's very funny, very funny. I tried to conjure a new personality to help me to give therapy to all my personalities, and I messed it up. And it's funny, you'll see. And it turns into almost like a horror type thing. But yeah, those 2 things are my main things I'm doing right now. You can find me on Facebook. I write jokes on Facebook all day, just all day. That's what I've been doing for years. Let me see if I can find a couple jokes that I did. Hold on. See, I'm giving you some dead air because we haven't had any dead air yet.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is something that happened to me, is that, when I have a day job, everybody's got a Joe job, but you create your own pathway, your own existence on this planet that I firmly believe will lead you to your passions. And, I got, my passion being, video games over here, movies and music, but what brings you to joy is the stuff you give out to others and share that laughter. And once you do that, man, get that core crowd, man, my hat's off to you, sir. You're doing awesome.
Thank you, man. All I'm trying to do is get people away from politics, get them away from the world, and make them laugh. That's what I'm trying to do. And Like here's a post I did today. I adopted a rescue black widow spider this week. Terrible pet. Not friendly at all. When do I get control of my bowels again?
Oh, God. Excellent.
Just ridiculous stuff, you know. I just make up all this stuff, and people love it. You know, I have people. It's great exercise to write this stuff. You know, people are like, oh, they're gonna steal your joke on Facebook, but you know what? Who cares? You know what I mean? I wrote this one yesterday. Everyone in this country is now watching either baseball or football. Basically, a lot of balls are being watched.
Yes. Not the ones that matter.
I like that one.
Right? It's just stupid stuff, man. But it's, you know, and sometimes you come up with some amazing ones. And, you know, for example, on dating apps, likes to travel means pay for my travel, right?
Yes.
That's excellent.
Anyway.
Well, thank you, sir. We
Thank
appreciate you coming on, taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule.
I'm grateful.
And we will definitely be watching you on the Danny McDermott Show on YouTube. And thanks so much for joining the Geek and I podcast. We let's keep in touch, and hopefully once 2021 rolls around and it turns out to be even worse than 2020.
Oh, no, please, no. It can't be worse. Please, no.
I don't know. Have you seen episode 9? Everything can be worse.
I hope not. Oh my God. That would mean my ex would come back into my life. No.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate your time, and take care of yourself, and all the health, and you know, good luck.
Let's make them laugh.
Yeah, make them laugh.
That's it.
Right on.
All right.
All right, guys.
Sir.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff. Well, that ends another episode of the Geek and I podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Killer, wasn't it?
Special thanks to Danny McDermott of the Danny McDermott Show on YouTube. Jeff will have the After the Show coming up pretty soon. We'll put a link in the description for that. I just wanted to let you know that Geek and I podcast is part of the Geek News Now podcast network. For all the news and information, you can visit geeknewsnow.net. Check them out for everything that you need, and it is all clickbait free. We are sponsored by Sumner Twins Talent. You can find them online at facebook.com/Sumner Twins. And we are also sponsored by Metallic Dice Games for everything you need in your gaming experience. It is right there on the website. Use code GNN at checkout and save 10%. And then you can find the Geek and I on Facebook at facebook.com/Geek and I podcast. So for everybody here at the Geek and I podcast, this is John saying see you next time, or
We'll catch you on the next one.
we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good day, everybody.